The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Ambassador Zethric stood at the center podium, his four thin arms trembling as he held the data tablet. Around him, representatives from 247 species watched with their various eyes, tentacles, and sensory organs. "I call this emergency session to order," Zethric said, his voice crackling through the translation devices. "We must discuss the human problem." A murmur spread through the chamber. The word human caused many delegates to shift in their seats. Some species had never seen a human. Others had encountered them once and never wished to again. High Counselor Mervath, a being made of crystalline structures that caught the light beautifully, leaned forward on her platform. "Ambassador Zethric, you have requested this session with great urgency. The Council has not gathered on such short notice in 300 cycles. What is this human problem you speak of?" Zethric swallowed. His species did not have the right biology for sweating, but if they did, he would be covered in it. "Honored Council members, I have spent the last 5 cycles studying humanity. I believed, as many of us did, that the stories were exaggerated. I believed that no species could truly be as dangerous as the reports suggested." He paused and looked around the chamber. Many delegates nodded. They had all thought the same thing. "I was wrong," Zethric continued. "The stories are not exaggerated. If anything, they do not capture the full truth. Humanity is not simply dangerous. They are apex predators of the highest order, and they do not even know it." A tall being with gray skin and 12 eyes rose from its seat. This was Delegate Vornix of the Theshan Collective. "Ambassador, with respect, we have heard these claims before. Every few cycles, someone warns us about humanity. Yet they have been members of the galactic community for only 15 cycles, and in that time they have started no wars. They have attacked no colonies. They have been, by all accounts, peaceful." "Exactly," Zethric said, "and that is what makes them so terrifying." The chamber fell silent again. Zethric pulled up a holographic display. It showed a blue and green planet, beautiful and full of life. "This is Earth, the human homeworld. I visited it myself. What I found there changed everything I thought I knew about galactic biology." He zoomed in on the planet, showing forests, oceans, and deserts. "Earth is what we classify as a Category 12 death world. For those unfamiliar with the classification system, Category 12 is the highest danger rating we can give. A planet where virtually everything is trying to kill everything else." Several delegates gasped. Category 12 worlds were rare. Most species came from Category 2 or 3 worlds. Even the feared Krellian warriors came from a Category 6 world. "I see some of you do not believe me," Zethric said. "Let me provide evidence." The hologram changed to show a large predator with orange and black stripes. "This is called a tiger. It is a land predator that can weigh up to 300 kilograms. It has teeth designed to tear through flesh and claws that can cut through bone. On most civilized worlds, this creature would be considered a planetary disaster. On Earth, humans keep small versions of them as pets. They call them cats, and they let them sleep on their beds." The hologram shifted again, showing a massive gray creature with a long nose and huge ears. "This is an elephant. It weighs over 5,000 kilograms. One step from this creature can kill a human instantly. Humans train them for work. Children ride on their backs for entertainment." More images appeared. Bears, wolves, sharks, crocodiles. Each one a nightmare by galactic standards, and humans lived alongside all of them. "But here is the most important point," Zethric said, his voice growing serious. "Humans are not the biggest creatures on their world. They are not the fastest. They are not the strongest. They do not have the sharpest teeth or the deadliest venom. And yet they rose to dominate their entire planet. They became the apex predators not through physical superiority, but through something far more dangerous." He looked around the chamber. "They never give up." Delegate Vornix made a sound of dismissal. "All species have survival instincts, Ambassador. This is not unique." With respect, delegate, you are wrong. Zethrix changed the display to show a human skeleton. Do you see these legs? Humans evolved on the open plains of their world. They developed a hunting technique that no other species in the known galaxy has ever used. They call it persistence hunting. He began showing videos collected from Earth's historical archives. They showed early humans, armed with simple spears, following large animals across vast distances. Humans cannot outrun their prey, Zethrix explained. A healthy deer can run twice as fast as a human, but the deer must stop. It must rest. Its body overheats and it needs time to recover. The video showed the humans walking steadily, never stopping, while the deer in the distance began to slow. Humans do not stop. Their bodies are designed to keep moving. They sweat, which cools them down. Their two legs are extremely efficient for long-distance travel. They can walk and run for hours, days even. They follow their prey until it collapses from exhaustion, until it cannot run anymore, until it simply gives up and dies. The chamber was completely silent. The prey animal does not understand what is happening, Zethrix said softly. It runs and it escapes. It thinks it is safe. But then the human appears again. So it runs again and escapes again. And the human appears again, over and over. The animal cannot comprehend a predator that does not tire, that does not stop, that keeps coming no matter what. He turned off the display. Council members, this is what humanity is. This is their fundamental nature. They do not give up. They do not stop. They do not accept defeat. When they want something, they pursue it until they get it or until they die. And even death does not always stop them because other humans will continue the pursuit. Counselor Mervath's crystalline body flickered with unusual colors. Ambassador, you paint a frightening picture. But as Delegate Vornix noted, humans have been peaceful since joining our community. Yes, Zethrix agreed, because they have had no reason to hunt us. We have given them no reason to pursue us. But I began this investigation because of a small incident, an incident that I believe the Council needs to understand. He pulled up new files. 3 cycles ago, a human cargo ship was attacked by Krellian raiders in the outer territories. The ship was destroyed. The crew of 12 humans was killed, all except one, a female named Sarah Chen. The hologram showed a human woman with dark hair and determined eyes. She did not look particularly dangerous. She was small by human standards, barely meeting the average height, but something in her expression made several delegates uncomfortable. Sarah Chen was taken as a slave by the Krellian raiders, Zethrix continued. The Krellians believed she would be valuable. Humans were new to the galaxy, and there was a market for exotic species. They planned to sell her. He paused. That was 3 cycles ago. I have spent the last 5 cycles tracking what happened next, and I believe every member of this council needs to hear this story, because it explains, better than any statistics or biological analysis, exactly why humanity has earned its reputation as apex predators. The display changed to show a series of locations, space stations, planets, ships, each one marked with a small red dot. Sarah Chen was one small human woman against an entire Krellian raider clan. She had no weapons, no ship, no allies. She was alone in a hostile galaxy, surrounded by species who saw her as property or prey. Zethrix looked directly at the assembled delegates. Within 3 cycles, every single member of that Krellian clan was dead, and Sarah Chen walked free. This is that story. The Krellian raider ship was called the Iron Tooth. It was an ugly vessel, built for speed and violence rather than comfort. Inside its dark corridors, Sarah Chen sat in a small cage, watching her captors move about their business. The Krellians were a warrior species. They stood nearly 3 meters tall, with thick-scaled skin and powerful arms that ended in sharp claws. Their heads were broad and flat, with rows of teeth visible even when their mouths were closed. They had conquered dozens of species before joining the galactic community, and they had never lost that predator pride. Sarah watched them carefully. She did not cry, she did not beg, she simply watched. One of the Krellians, a younger male named Gret, noticed her watching. He walked over to her cage and crouched down to look at her through the bars. "You are strange, human," he said through his translator. "The other slaves we have taken, they scream, they cry, they beg for mercy, you just watch." Sarah said nothing. Gret tilted his head. "Are you stupid? Do you not understand what is happening to you?" "I understand," Sarah said quietly. "Then why do you not fear?" Sarah met his eyes. For a long moment she simply looked at him. Then she spoke, her voice calm and flat. "Because I am counting." Gret laughed, a harsh barking sound. "Counting what?" "All of you, every face, every name I hear, every detail of this ship." She paused. "I am making a list." Gret found this amusing. He called over some of his clan brothers, and they all laughed at the small human making lists in her head. They did not understand. They could not understand. Because on Earth this behavior had a name. It was called gathering intelligence, and it was the first step in the hunt. The Iron Tooth docked at a space station called the Crimson Market. It was a lawless place, built in an asteroid field far from Council patrol routes. Here, anything could be bought or sold: weapons, ships, drugs, and slaves. Sarah was brought out of her cage and forced to walk through the station's corridors. Krellian guards held her arms, their claws digging into her skin. She did not struggle. She simply walked and watched and counted. The station was massive. Thousands of beings moved through its passages. Sarah saw species she recognized from her training and many she did not. She noted the security stations, the weapon types, the patrol patterns. She looked for cameras, for guards, for anything useful. A Krellian named Voreth led the group. He was the captain of the Iron Tooth, a scarred veteran with one eye missing. He had been raiding for 30 cycles, and he was very good at his job. "This human will fetch a good price," he said to his second-in-command. "The collectors will pay well for something so exotic. Perhaps we will sell her to the syndicate. They always want new specimens." Sarah filed away the name. The syndicate, another piece of information for her list. They reached a holding area where other slaves waited in cells. Most of them looked broken. Their eyes were empty, their spirits crushed. They had accepted their fate. Sarah was pushed into a cell next to a small furry creature that she recognized as a Velthian. The Velthians were a gentle species, known for their artistic skills and peaceful nature. This one looked young, barely more than a child by their standards. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked quietly. The Velthian looked at her with large, wet eyes. "They took me from my family. They said they will sell me to someone who collects rare species. I do not want to be a collection." Sarah reached through the bars and touched the creature's small paw. "What is your name?" "Kira." "I am Sarah. Listen to me, Kira. I am going to get out of here, and when I do, I will take you with me. Do you understand?" Kira looked at her with confusion. "How? The Krellians are too strong. There are too many of them." Sarah smiled. It was not a nice smile. "The Krellians think they are predators. They are wrong. They do not know what a real predator looks like." "What does a real predator look like?" Sarah's smile faded and her eyes grew cold. "Like someone who will never stop. Like someone who will follow them to the ends of the universe. Like someone who will watch them die, one by one, until none of them remain." Kira shivered. For a moment, the small human woman seemed larger somehow, more dangerous than the Krellians who had captured them. "How will you do this?" Kira whispered. "I do not know yet," Sarah admitted. "But I will figure it out. That is what humans do. We solve problems, we adapt, we overcome." She paused. "And we never ever give up." Over the next few days, Sarah continued to watch and count. She learned the routines of the guards. She memorized the layout of the station. She identified weak points in security, and she began to plan. The Krellians did not notice. To them, she was just a quiet slave waiting to be sold. They had no idea that inside her human brain, a hunt was beginning. Sarah's opportunity came on the fourth day. One of the Krellian guards, a young male named Dreth, was assigned to bring food to the slaves. He was careless, overconfident. He opened Sarah's cell door and stepped inside to drop off her meal. Sarah moved. She had been waiting by the door, standing in a position that looked casual but was actually perfectly positioned for what she needed to do. When Dreth turned his back to her, she grabbed the food tray and slammed it into the back of his head. It was not enough to hurt him seriously. Krellians had thick skulls and strong bodies, but it was enough to surprise him. He stumbled forward and Sarah jumped onto his back. She wrapped her arms around his neck, squeezing with all her strength. On Earth, this was called a chokehold. Humans had developed it thousands of years ago, and it was brutally effective. Dreth struggled. He was much stronger than Sarah. He could easily throw her off. But Sarah had positioned herself perfectly. She locked her legs around his waist, making it impossible for him to reach her, and she kept squeezing. "What are you doing?" Dreth gasped. "You cannot hurt me, weak human." But Sarah was not trying to hurt him. She was cutting off blood flow to his brain. Humans had learned that even the strongest opponent needed blood to stay conscious. Without it, they would pass out in seconds. Dreth's struggles grew weaker. His vision began to blur. He tried to call for help, but Sarah's arm pressed against his throat, blocking his voice. "Go to sleep," Sarah whispered. "Just go to sleep." 30 seconds later, Dreth collapsed. Sarah moved quickly. She searched his body and found a small knife, a communication device, and an access card. She took all of them. Then she checked the corridor outside. Empty. She went back to Kira's cell and used the access card to open it. The small Velthian looked at her with amazement. "You defeated a Krellian. How is this possible?" "I told you," Sarah said. "Humans are predators. Now come, we need to move." They slipped through the corridors of the holding area. Sarah moved carefully, using the shadows, avoiding the patrol routes she had memorized. Kira followed close behind, trusting this strange human who had promised to save her. They almost made it to the docking bay before the alarm sounded. Sarah pulled Kira into a small maintenance closet as Krellian guards rushed past. Through the door, they could hear shouting. "The human escaped. Find her. Captain Voreth wants her alive." Sarah looked at Kira. "Change of plans. We cannot reach a ship now. We need to hide until the search dies down." "Where can we hide? They will search everywhere." Sarah thought about the station layout. She had been counting and mapping for days. She knew there were places the guards did not go, maintenance tunnels, waste processing areas, places that were too dirty or too dangerous for most species. But not for a human. "Follow me," Sarah said, "and stay close." She led Kira deep into the station's lower levels. The corridors grew darker and dirtier. The air became thick with strange smells. Most species would turn back at this point, driven away by the unpleasant conditions. Sarah kept walking. They reached a section of the station that had been abandoned. Old machinery sat rusting in the corners. Broken lights flickered overhead. It was the perfect hiding place. "We will stay here," Sarah said. "I need to think, I need to plan." Kira looked around nervously. "What will you plan?" Sarah sat down against a wall, her stolen knife in her hand. Her eyes were distant, calculating. She was already thinking about the next step. "I am going to destroy them," she said simply. "Every Krellian who took me, every being who profits from slavery here. I am going to tear this whole operation apart." "But you are just one human." Sarah looked at her, and something ancient stirred behind her eyes. Something that had been passed down through countless generations of human ancestors. The spirit of the persistence hunter. The drive that had made humanity the dominant species on a Category 12 death world. That is all I need to be, she said, because I am not going to stop. I am going to keep hunting them until none of them remain. They do not know it yet, but they made a terrible mistake when they took me. They started a hunt they cannot win. In that dark, abandoned corner of the Crimson Market, the hunt began in earnest. Weeks passed. The Krellians searched for Sarah. They sent patrols through the station. They offered rewards for her capture. They threatened the other slaves to learn her location. But they never found her. Sarah had grown up in the countryside of Earth. She had learned to hunt and track from her grandfather, who had learned from his grandfather. These skills, passed down through generations, were now being used in ways her ancestors could never have imagined. She hunted the Krellians. Not all at once, not directly, that would be suicide. Instead, she hunted them the way her ancestors had hunted on the African plains, slowly, patiently, relentlessly. The first Krellian to die was a guard named Harsk. He was assigned to patrol the lower levels, searching for the escaped human. One night, he went into a maintenance tunnel. He never came out. His body was found 3 days later. His throat had been cut with his own knife. Captain Vorath was furious. He doubled the patrols. He ordered his men to travel in pairs. He promised death to anyone who failed to find the human. It did not help. 2 weeks later, another Krellian died. This one was named Vex, and he was found in a storage room with a maintenance cable wrapped around his neck. There were signs of a struggle, but somehow, the small human had won. The Krellians began to get nervous. They were warriors. They were not supposed to be afraid, but something about this human was different. She did not fight fair. She did not attack directly. She struck from the shadows and disappeared. She was like a ghost. "We should leave this station," one of the older Krellians suggested. "Take our slaves and go. This human is not worth the trouble." "No," Vorath growled. "I will not run from a weak little human. I have hunted 1,000 species across this galaxy. I will not be defeated by one small female." But even Vorath was beginning to wonder. He had seen many predators in his time. He knew what danger looked like. And something about this human made the scales on the back of his neck stand up. He was right to be worried. Sarah was not just hunting the Krellians. She was learning. Every kill taught her something new. She learned how the Krellians thought, how they fought, how they reacted to fear. She learned their weaknesses. And she was not alone anymore. During her time hiding in the station's lower levels, Sarah had met others, other escaped slaves, other victims of the Crimson Market's cruelty. They were broken and scared, but Sarah gave them something they had lost: hope. "I know you are afraid," she told them. "I know you think there is no way out, but I am telling you there is. We can fight back. We can make them pay for what they did to us." A Velthian named Dorn, Kira's uncle who had been searching for her, spoke up. "But how? We are weak. They are strong." "The strong are not always the winners," Sarah said. "On my world, humans spent thousands of years fighting creatures much bigger and stronger than us. We won because we were smarter, because we worked together, because we never gave up." She looked at each of them. "I will not lie to you. This will be dangerous. Some of us might die, but if we do nothing, we will be slaves forever. We will be sold and used and forgotten. I do not accept that. I will not accept that." Slowly, one by one, the escaped slaves joined her. They became her army, her pack, her fellow hunters. And the hunt continued. Captain Vorath stood in the command center of the Iron Tooth, staring at the latest report. 5 more of his crew were dead. 5 more, killed by the human and her growing band of followers. "This is impossible," he snarled. "She is one human, one weak, pathetic human. How is she doing this?" His second-in-command, a Krellian named Sorth, shifted nervously. "Captain, the men are saying things. They are saying the human is not natural, that she is some kind of demon sent to punish us." "Stupid superstition," Vorath spat, but even he was not entirely sure anymore. He had studied humans when they first joined the galactic community. He knew their statistics, their average strength, their running speed, their physical capabilities. By all measures, they should be easy prey. But the data did not explain what was happening here. The data did not account for the look he had seen in Sarah Chen's eyes when they first captured her. The cold calculation, the absolute certainty. That human had looked at him like he was already dead, like his death was just a matter of time. Vorath was beginning to think she might be right. "Double the guards on the ship," he ordered. "I want every entrance watched at all times, and send a message to the rest of the clan. Tell them we need reinforcements." "Yes, Captain." Sorth left to carry out the orders. Vorath stayed in the command center, looking out at the station through the viewport. Somewhere out there, a human woman was watching him, counting, planning, waiting for the right moment to strike. And he had no idea how to stop her. Sarah watched the Iron Tooth from a maintenance gantry high above the docking bay. She had found this spot weeks ago, during her early explorations. It gave her a clear view of the Krellian ship while keeping her hidden in the shadows. Kira sat beside her, having refused to stay behind despite the danger. The young Velthian had become Sarah's closest companion, and she had learned much from the human in their time together. "They are scared," Kira whispered, watching the Krellians patrol the docking bay with nervous energy. "I have never seen Krellians scared before." "Everyone gets scared," Sarah said. "Even predators, especially when they realize they are not the most dangerous thing in the room." "What will you do next?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. She had been planning this for weeks. Every detail had been considered. Every possibility had been accounted for. "Tomorrow night we end this," she said. "All of it, the Iron Tooth, Captain Vorath, the entire slave operation." Kira looked at her with wide eyes. "How? There are still too many of them." Sarah smiled. It was the same cold smile she had shown Kira in the holding cells weeks ago, the smile of a predator. "We do not need to fight them all. We just need to make them fight each other." She explained her plan. It was clever. It was brutal. It was exactly the kind of thing a persistence hunter would think of. Because in the end, the hunt was not about strength. It was not about speed. It was about patience and persistence and the willingness to do whatever it took to win. And Sarah Chen was willing to do whatever it took. The next night, everything changed. It started with a fire in the Crimson Market's power core. Someone had sabotaged the cooling systems, and the resulting explosion knocked out power to half the station. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in red shadows. Then came the rumors, whispered stories spreading through the station's criminal underworld. Stories about Captain Vorath. Stories about how he had been cheating his partners, skimming profits, and selling secrets to the council. None of it was true, but Sarah and her followers had spent weeks planting these lies, and now they were bearing fruit. Vorath's allies turned on him. Old enemies saw an opportunity. Within hours, the Crimson Market erupted into violence. And in the chaos, Sarah made her move. She led her small army through the burning corridors toward the docking bay. They moved like ghosts, avoiding the fighting, slipping through the cracks in the chaos. They reached the Iron Tooth just as Vorath was trying to escape. The Krellian captain stood at the base of his ship's ramp, surrounded by the last of his loyal crew. He saw Sarah emerge from the smoke, her stolen knife in her hand, her small army behind her. "You," he growled, "you did this, all of this." "Yes," Sarah said simply. How did you do this? You are just a human, you should be nothing." Sarah walked toward him, step by step. Her followers spread out, surrounding the remaining Krellians. They were outnumbered, but they were not afraid anymore. "Let me tell you something about humans," Sarah said. "We do not look dangerous. We do not have claws or fangs or scales. We are small and soft and weak. But we are the most successful predators our world has ever produced." She stopped a few meters from Voreth, looking up at the massive Krellian without fear. Do you know why? Because we never stop. You can run from us, but we will follow. You can hide from us, but we will find you. You can fight us, but we will keep coming back, over and over until you cannot fight anymore. Voreth roared and lunged at her. He was fast, much faster than a creature his size should be. His claws sliced through the air where Sarah had been standing. But she was not there anymore. She had moved, sidestepping his attack with the reflexes of a born predator. Her knife flashed, and Voreth screamed as it cut across his leg. He stumbled, and Sarah struck again. And again. She was not strong enough to kill him with one blow, so she used many. Each cut was small, but together they added up. This was how humans had hunted for thousands of years. Not with single killing blows, but with persistence, with patience, with the knowledge that eventually every prey would fall. Voreth fell to his knees, bleeding from a dozen wounds. His crew tried to help him, but Sarah's followers held them back. The fight was over. Sarah stood before the defeated Krellian captain, her knife at his throat. "You took me as a slave," she said. "You killed my friends. You planned to sell me like property. Did you think there would be no consequences?" Voreth looked up at her with hatred in his eyes. "You are a monster." "No," Sarah said. "I am a human. There is a difference." She leaned closer. "Monsters are creatures you find in stories, creatures that do not exist. But humans are real, and we are everywhere. We are in every corner of this galaxy now. We remember every wrong done to us, and we never ever stop hunting those who hurt us." She pressed the knife harder against his throat. "So spread the word if you survive. Tell every slaver, every pirate, every criminal in this galaxy. Humans are not prey. We are not victims. We are apex predators, and if you come after us, we will hunt you down to the end of the universe." Then she stepped back and lowered her knife. "But I am not going to kill you," she said. "I am going to let you live, so you can tell everyone what happened here, so they know what humans are capable of." She turned and walked toward the Iron Tooth's ramp. Her followers began loading the freed slaves onto the ship. "We are taking your ship," Sarah called back over her shoulder. "Consider it payment for the lives you destroyed." Voreth watched helplessly as the human and her army boarded his vessel. The ship's engines fired up, and it lifted off, carrying Sarah Chen away from the Crimson Market. She was free, she had won, but more importantly, she had sent a message. Humans were not to be underestimated. Humans were not to be preyed upon. Humans were apex predators. And the galaxy was just beginning to understand what that meant. Ambassador Zethrix paused in his presentation. The council chamber was completely silent. Every delegate was staring at him with expressions of shock, fear, or fascination. "That is the story of Sarah Chen," Zethrix said. "One human woman against an entire Krellian raider clan, and she won." He changed the display to show a map of the galaxy, with dozens of red dots scattered across it. Since then, there have been other incidents, other humans who demonstrated the same terrifying persistence. The colony ship that was stranded on a hostile world for 3 years, and the survivors who walked out of the jungle carrying their dead. The exploration team that was captured by the Syndicate and escaped by tunneling through solid rock with their bare hands over 8 months. The merchant captain who tracked down the pirates who killed his family across 17 systems over 4 years. The red dots kept multiplying. "Every species in this chamber has a breaking point," Zethrix continued. "A point at which they accept defeat. A point at which they stop fighting and surrender to fate. Humans do not have this point. They can be killed, but they cannot be made to give up. This is hard-coded into their biology, into their very souls." He looked around at the assembled delegates. "This is why humanity has earned its reputation as apex predators. Not because they are the strongest or the fastest or the deadliest in direct combat, but because they will never stop. They will pursue their goals until they achieve them or until they die. And even then, Other humans will continue the pursuit. High Counselor Mervath's crystalline body pulsed with complex patterns. Ambassador, what do you suggest we do with this information? Zethrix considered the question carefully. I suggest we do nothing, he said finally. Humanity has been peaceful since joining our community. They have offered trade, friendship, and cooperation. They have shown no interest in conquest or domination. He paused. But I also suggest we remember what they are, remember what they are capable of, and never, ever give them a reason to hunt us. The council chamber erupted into discussion. Delegates argued and debated, their voices filling the great hall. But beneath all the noise, a simple truth had been established, a truth that would spread across the galaxy in the cycles to come. Humans were apex predators, and it was best to stay on their good side. In a small apartment on Earth, Sarah Chen sat by her window, watching the sunset. 3 years had passed since her escape from the Crimson Market. The memories of that time still haunted her dreams sometimes, but they were growing fainter. She had returned to Earth after delivering the freed slaves to their homeworlds. She had tried to go back to her normal life, but normal life felt strange now. She had seen too much, done too much. A message alert chimed on her communication device. She picked it up and read the text. It was from Kira, her Velthian friend. The young creature had grown up since their time together, and she had become an advocate for freed slaves across the galaxy. Her message was simple. The Galactic Council discussed humanity today. They are afraid of us. Can you believe it? The Great Council afraid of little humans. Sarah smiled. It was a small smile, tired but genuine. Yes, she said to herself, I can believe it. She looked out at the sunset, at the beautiful world that had produced her species. Earth was a death world by galactic standards. Everything here was dangerous. The animals, the plants, the weather, even the bacteria. Humans had evolved in this crucible of death. They had been forged by it, shaped by it, made strong by it. Not strong in body, but strong in spirit, strong in will, strong in the one quality that mattered most: the refusal to give up. Sarah thought about her ancestors, the early humans who had walked out of Africa and spread across the entire planet, the hunters who had chased their prey for days across the savannah, the explorers who had crossed oceans in tiny boats, the pioneers who had settled harsh lands and survived impossible conditions. They had never given up, not once in millions of years of human history, and neither had she. The Galactic Council was right to be cautious. Humans were dangerous, but not because they wanted to hurt anyone, simply because they could not be stopped once they set their minds to something. Sarah hoped that humanity would use this quality for good, for exploration and discovery and building a better future. She hoped they would never have to become the hunters they were capable of being. But if they did, the galaxy would learn what Earth already knew. Humans were the ultimate persistence predators, and nothing in the universe could outrun them forever. She closed her eyes and listened to the sounds of Earth. Somewhere in the distance, a dog was barking. Birds were singing their evening songs. Children were laughing in a nearby park. Her world, her species, her people. Apex predators, every single one of them. And she would not have it any other way.